Recording in progress.
Welcome into the latest episode of Betting the Pitch. I'm your host, the real_G Warner, on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. We are going live after Monday Night Football, one of the roughest Leon Lett bad beats on the Dallas Cowboys. Hopefully you were not with me on that one. We're going to look to Europe and to trying to find a way to forget about those Cowboys. Oh my gosh. But anyway, we're going to go through both days of this match day 6 of Champions League, Tuesday and Wednesday. And we'll come out with a best bet for each of the days. Going to put the record of best bets on the line. 17-4 year to date, 8-0 last 8, 13-1 last 14. So let's get into it. Before we get too deep in the podcast, though, please check out my Patreon, patreon.com/real_G Warner. Best spot for my plays, leans, write-ups across all sports, college basketball, of course, the NFL, which I don't know what to say. It's hard not to grade that Cowboys bet as a win, but it did not come through, unfortunately. But I guess those happen, and I got to be prepared for that. So as I try to stop stalling, want to also mention on this channel, Betting the Pitch, and Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify, plus at the real_G Warner on YouTube, which is where you might be watching this live on Monday evening in the United States, early wee hours in Europe, as I know I do have some listeners out in Europe, in the European Union, and Germany specifically. Thank you, Dankeschön, for your support. But we do have an NFL podcast coming out on Tuesday night with A_Schnicker. He got a good win on Sunday Night Football on the under, and let's try to keep that momentum going, Shitty. You're probably not listening to this one live, but maybe you are. And then, of course, we'll do college basketball and college football with that Biggie Spend, both on the pregame.com podcast network. But we're still trying to figure out if it's worth going a little bit deeper. If you want to see it in the comments, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Subscribe on YouTube, of course, and tell us that you want to see more action. You want to see more of the college football, college basketball, whatever you want to see, you tell us, and we'll make sure that we do it. So we'll see if this actually worked or not. I just hid the Chrome browser I'm using on StreamYard to broadcast live. Hopefully that's still working. I can probably look at that on my phone, but we'll get into it because it does clear the screen quite a bit for me, as I have Zoom recording, of course, and then kind of upload all over the place. But it's too long into this thing to not be into the talk yet. And so let's go with the first matchup on our list, and that is Girona from La Liga in Spain hosting Liverpool as they move or travel south and east to Catalonia for a battle of Champions League sides. I don't necessarily think in match day 6 with still 2 match days left to go, I don't know that there's a ton of value in looking at permutations and where teams are going to potentially finish. I think the easiest way is to talk through these games and then really get to a point where as we come down to it, we'll see who might be resting players because they've already locked something up. I don't think that's been done yet because there's still a big deal of trying to finish in those top, I think, 8 buys, and then 6. I want to say it's the remainder play playoff then to make it to the next round. So more Champions League matches for us, which is great. And then we'll see if there's any sort of change in kind of how this all works. But we'll start in the early windows, that Girona and Liverpool matchup. Interesting here is that Liverpool had their match postponed on Saturday morning. It was supposed to kick off the Premier League, but heavy or high winds, I think, were the biggest problem there. I guess good for the Liverpool rest. And I mean, they've been playing a ton of matches, of course, though the festive fixtures have not yet begun in the English Premier League, but they did have a midweek match day last week. Big test for Girona here, of course, after so many injuries have sustained, switching into Champions League as they never played in it before. And it's really impacted who they've been, who they are, who they will be. But they've stabilized a little bit. I think they've improved, and we'll see what ends up happening with that matchup. As I cannot pull up to see if my stuff is working, so I guess I'll go on the other phone. I'm just Kevin Gates, 2 phones. Let's see. View channel, and it does look like we're live, so I guess that's working. Yeah, okay, I can hear it. There we go. All right, so now that that's good, so Girona, a 1.25 goal underdog at home with all the juice to Liverpool. Total is 3, juice pretty heavily to over. I'm interested in the home underdog here. Liverpool, to me, yes, leading Premier League, have been beating teams, but not that impressively, I got to say. I feel like the rest advantage is a big deal as Girona played La Liga this weekend, but home crowd should be a big deal. It's a smaller stadium, so that will certainly be a little bit of an adjustment for Liverpool, who are used to selling out stadium sizes in their away fans, and it's going to be weird because they will have a presence. I think there are more tickets allotted to visiting teams in Champions League, kind of like cup matches within the domestic leagues or domestic in the countries. I think Girona, though, the big question is, so they used to be an all-out attacking side that went after you. I don't think that's the smartest thing to do against Liverpool because they are so good and have so much pace and have so many incredible attackers. But Darwin Nunez can't finish a chance at all. He also, unfortunately, I mean, it's possible that he's not going to start this matchup. That I think is their best striker for the future, but he has to really figure out how to put the ball in net because he just doesn't do it enough with so many chances. Liverpool are also more of a possession team under owner Slot. I think that's helped them a lot this year, as has a really easy Premier League start and other Premier League giants being pretty poor around them. But I think there's some value potentially going against Liverpool here, especially because a 1-goal win would certainly do the trick for Liverpool. Up one late, certainly you have to worry about a goalkeeper going up for a set piece or a corner kick and potentially conceding an own goal, or excuse me, an empty netter, as you see in the NHL here in the United States and in North America. And I guess sometimes in Finland if they're playing some matches there or games there. But I think that's a lower probability event, something that you probably pretty much, if I'm backing Girona as a 1.25 goal underdog, I think they have a good chance to draw this match or win this match. And we'll end up seeing what happens, of course. Lead to under 3 as well as the plus 1.25 on the home underdog. Moving next to the last in this early window, we have Dinamo Zagreb hosting Celtic. Currently Zagreb, a 1/4 goal underdog at home with a little bit slightly more juice than Celtic away from home. Total is 2.75, juice a little bit more to under. So Dinamo Zagreb, I thought they played very competitively against Borussia Dortmund in their last Champions League match. I don't follow the Czech or excuse me, the Croatian league. It's barely sleep as it is, and I'm really looking forward to going to bed tonight. But Celtic have looked great in this competition. They're usually pretty poor in Europe, whether it's the Champions League or Europa League. It hasn't really been the case this year. Do they deserve to be a road favorite, though? That's a big question. I backed Dinamo Zagreb in their home match with Borussia Dortmund. Last time, I thought they were competitive, but ultimately, Borussia Dortmund's success and talent, where skill probably is for where I was going for, were just too strong. I don't know that Celtic are that much better, though, and as a slight road favorite, those are the ones I'm really honing in on potentially going against. So my biggest interest in that one is definitely Zagreb, a 1/4 goal underdog at home. I'd like to play under here. I guess I lean that way to potentially playing against an overrated Celtic team away from home. They have played really well, but they did go on the road and get a goalless draw at Atalanta, which I think was one of the more impressive things. We'll get to Atalanta in just a second. But I think that's one of the more interesting things is seeing if Celtic go on the road and score goals. I think their defense should be able to handle a pretty weakened, just a weak Croatian side. They don't have the money to spend that a lot of these other clubs do. And a lot of that Croatian talent is playing in other leagues, not necessarily at Dinamo Zagreb. Moving to the big window on Tuesday, we'll start with probably one of the granddaddy of them all, as Brent Musburger used to say, or maybe that was Keith Jackson. I think both are out of the game now, not doing sports live anymore, unfortunately, unless Brent Musburger is calling like the ponies on Bison or whatever. But I thought to pick them right now to Real Madrid with all the juice on Real Madrid away from home. Total is 3, juice pretty heavily to under. You could see a low-scoring match here just because Real Madrid have been one of those sides that kind of squeeze you, though they're more pragmatic this season. They're also having to protect their defense, which is missing so many pieces and important ones at that. Atalanta on the other side, one of the best clubs in Europe, got a late winner against Milan as I wear the Christian Pulisic shirt. Not really a fan, but a fan of Captain America, I guess. I think Atalanta is the side I want here, and I lean to that under 3. I think we see a low-scoring matchup, and I think Real Madrid really struggled to get off the bus in Bergamo. We'll move next to Leipzig hosting Aston Villa. Currently, Leipzig a pick-em with slightly more juice on the home team. Total is 2 3/4. Juice is split. Aston Villa, they have a really poor road splits going back a couple seasons, really ever since Unai Emery arrived. Leipzig are talented, but have had a really awful season, have 0 points in Champions League so far. You know they're going for it. You know they're going balls to the wall, kind of like we saw in their DFB Pokal match with Eintracht Frankfurt in the middle of last week. Leipzig are at home. That's where they've been best. That's where they used to dominate teams. And honestly, they were like a goal and a half favorite, it felt like, in every home match against the dregs of the Bundesliga. Aston Villa have the Premier League name and title to them, but they are not a Premier League, Champions League side so far this season. I think the defense is really problematic. So give me Leipzig as a pick'em, and I guess I lean to under 2.75, though the Villa high line will certainly give some opportunities to Leipzig. I guess the biggest question is, can Leipzig get a lead, and then can they hold it? We'll move next to Bayer Leverkusen hosting Inter Milan. Currently, Leverkusen a quarter goal favorite at home with more juice. Over/under is 2.75, just pretty heavily to under. Inter, I think we're one of the last teams to concede in Champions League. We actually may not have conceded yet. Great defense, and really comes from a pragmatic play and style under Simone Inzaghi. Pretty much he took over what Conte did way back when and has stayed in the job, and Inter have been the best team in Italy. And I don't know that Simone Inzaghi has really changed much. Inter have had more of the ball this season. We'll see what happens with Leverkusen. I think Leverkusen, with a huge win over Bayern Munich to knock them out of the DFB Pokal, a huge deal for that. Maybe that's stabilized and given Leverkusen a little more confidence. I just don't really trust them. We'll see about oft injured Patrick Schick if he's going to return at striker. Also, Boniface is another potential striking option, but there's a lot of injuries up front. Leverkusen are nowhere near the performances that they had last season. Honestly, they stole a ton of points at the end of matches, but they've been a little bit less fortunate this year, or at least have been conceding late. That does forever, I think, leave a back door open for Inter Milan, but I think Inter can go in to Leverkusen and win this matchup. It's going to be tough on the road, but I like the quarter of a goal. Lean to under 2.75, but I really just don't trust the Leverkusen defense at this point in the season. Red Bull Salzburg then hosts PSG, Paris Saint-Germain in the Austrian, I guess not a capital, I don't think, but Salzburg, a goal and a half underdog at home, a little bit more juice on PSG. Total is 3.5, juice pretty heavily to under. PSG played a goalless draw on the road at Alger, a newly promoted side that is really known for trying to outscore their opponents. There are big problems at PSG. There always are. This is their competition. This is the one they care about. But, man, I'm interested in Red Bull Salzburg, I got to say. I lean to that 1.5, lean to under 3.5. I think I'm less likely to play the under 3.5 just because I don't know that I trust the Salzburg defense enough. It might be one of those matches that I like both home underdog and under and skip, and then I get really upset when PSG win 1-0 or something like that away from home. I thought PSG would respond to a lower valuation and play well this year without Kylian Mbappe, but it hasn't been working out for him, and it hasn't been working out for PSG as well, or either. Stade Brestois, then another French club. They are hosting PSV Eindhoven from the Dutch Eredivisie. Currently, Brest a half a goal underdog at home with more juice. Over/under is 2.75. Juice more pretty heavily to under right now, and I think I forgot to tweet that I was live, so let's get that out there so no one's missing that beauty or seeing this beautiful face or whatever you'd call it. Okay, I think that's good. Let's see any comments that I missed. I don't see any just yet, so if you got them, shoot them, but I guess we're still live and still counting, so I'll keep going. A little bit clearer screen, a little inside baseball, my bad. But Stade Brestois, half a goal underdog at home to Eindhoven. I think Stade Brest have been starting to look like they're losing a little bit of tread on the tires. They're a deep squad. They play and rotate pretty significantly, but they are not one of the stronger teams in France. They found Champions League from a really successful 2023-24 and have played and honestly have been so good in Champions League because of a weakened schedule. PSV Eindhoven are a good squad, of course, but there's a big step down, I think, for Dutch clubs when they're not playing at home. I think this is going to be a great position for Stade Brestois. I love them at home, so I'll take that half of a goal, and I'll lean to under 2.75 as well, though I do think, I again, like the home underdog more than the under. Looks like a couple more matches for this Tuesday before we get to the Tuesday selection for the ultimate best bet. Shakhtar Donetsk, they're 2.25 goal underdog at home, and they're pseudo home because they don't play games in Ukraine while it's during a war, an invasion of Russia. They host Bayern Munchen, 2.25 goal underdogs, as I said, and I think they're playing in Germany, I want to say. So this is even worse for Shakhtar Donetsk in terms of home field or home pitch advantage. Total's 3.25. This one juiced pretty heavily to over. I don't think there's much that I want to touch with this one, and I'll move to the last match on Tuesday's card, and that is Club Brugge hosting Sporting Lisboa. trying to replace or figure out what to do without Ruben Amorim as he's moved to Manchester United mid-season, dropping from Champions League to Europa League. LOL. But Bruges, they're a quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice. Total is 3, juice really heavily to under. I like Bruges. I think they're very talented. I want to back them. I think that Sporting Lisboa, we saw them really struggle in their last matchup. I want to say it was against Liverpool, English club. So the smash Manchester City, beat them so badly that not only does the home underdog cover, but also the over did, which was disappointing because I should have had I felt like I should deserve the 2-0 in that one. But I guess it is interesting to see Pep Guardiola cut his own nose, scratching it in anger. But I think there's going to be a lot of trouble in paradise. Sporting Lisboa has gotten a ton of respect from Champions League markets all season, but now they have a new manager and now they got to figure out how to play a new way. So give me Club Bruges at quarter goal underdog at home, and I lean to under 3. It's very juicy at the moment. We'll see if it sticks around before kickoff on Tuesday. As for my best bet on Tuesday, I'm going to go with, I think it's really, there's a lot of good choices, great choices on this list. I think I'm going to go with, I'll go Leipzig's up there. I got to say, I really love the situation for them. They got to go all out for this matchup at home to Aston Villa because they have 0 points and need to find some way to get towards advancing. And I think Aston Villa are ripe for the picking. But, I got to say, I think Atalanta's great. Pick them at home, but 2 pick-ems right there, Atalanta and Leipzig. Also like Inter, though on the road's a lot tougher, quarter goal underdog. I'll go with Atalanta, a pick-em at home as my best bet on Tuesday. We'll move to Wednesday and try to get through this as quickly as possible because I want to get this up and uploaded so everyone can either listen to this before you go to bed. If you're not watching live, shame on you. Just kidding. It's late night with the real _G Warner, as always, as usual. So I think I'm more awake because of the disaster in Jerry World tonight. We'll start on Wednesday in the early window, 2 matches. Atletico Madrid hosting Slovan Bratislava from Slovakia. Currently, Atletico Madrid a 2 3/4 goal favorite. A little bit more juice. Total is 3 3/4. She's pretty heavily to under. Slovan Bratislava just aren't at the level of the Slovakian champions are just not at the level of La Liga side or any Champions League club. Ultimately, they did have a good night on the road at Girona early in the season, but Girona were basically a Slovakian side in terms of talent because there's so many injured players that were out. I don't think there's much that I want to do with this one. So I'll move to the next. Lille hosts Sturm Graz. Currently, Lille a 1-goal favorite with all the juice. Total is 2 3/4. Juice more to the under. Sturm Graz just lost their manager to TSG Hoffenheim, a Europa League club in the German Bundesliga. So I guess it doesn't just happen in the Premier League. But I wasn't impressed by Sturm Graz. I feel like I guess I've been impressed by their performances, but they are very naive. And Lille, while they're young, they've got a little bit more seasoning, and they've been awesome in Champions League so far this season. I don't really want much to do with this early window at all on Wednesday, I must say. We'll move to the later one. Juventus hosting Manchester City, coming off a back-and-forth match with Bologna, 2 non-scoring teams that in Serie A, I guess, finally found some netting for once in their lifetimes. But Juve, a 0.5 goal underdog at home with all the juice to Man City. Totals 2.5, juice all the way to under. Maybe we see this fall to 2 1/4. That's a tiny, tiny number for Manchester City. But at this point, I feel like I'm reading the tea leaves. Whenever Manchester City is getting bet against or a really small total like this, I think that's going without saying that's probably the side you want to be on. I lean to Juve. They don't have much goal scoring, and that's the biggest question. I think that pushes me towards under 2.5 here, or under 2 1/4 if it falls there eventually. All lines quoted courtesy of BetOnline, SportsBetting.ag. If you don't have a link, if you don't have if you don't have an account at either of those sites, go follow links in the podcast description and go get some free money. I lean to Juve getting 0.5 goal and to under 2.5 in that matchup. I still see no reason to stop fading Manchester City. I think they have big problems. And they're going to still be road favorites every time they play. I will certainly be on it just like I was Crystal Palace this weekend. Arsenal then hosts Monaco. Currently, Arsenal a 1.5 favorite at home with all the juice. Over under is 3, juice all the way to under, and then some. This probably falls to 2 3/4. Monaco, they're not as bad away from home as they are at home. I mean, they should be so much better at home, but they have no crowd, so they play pretty well away from home. Big test going to Arsenal, but Arsenal to me. Are they really going to score a corner kick goal every time they take one? I guess they could. But Monaco, I think, will be a big challenge. They're a big, big underdog, which you do have to think about. And Monaco could score goals, which does put that 3-goal number a little bit in jeopardy. I do think the road underdog, though, will play this one tight. I think they will be more pragmatic than usual. Adi Hütter, former German Bundesliga manager, I think he's capable, and I think that they will have some tricks up their sleeve for Arsenal. Of course, you don't want to shoot out both for a road underdog of this size and also for an under. But I think Arsenal does a really good job of keeping their net protected as much as they can. They do that by possessing the ball, but I think Monaco will try their best to counterattack this matchup, and that plays towards under and underdog. Moving next to Borussia Dortmund hosting Barcelona. Currently Dortmund a quarter goal underdog at home in front of the Schwarz-Gelben, in front of the yellow wall. Total's 3.25 in this one, juiced all the way to over. Two teams that score a ton of goals. I could see a lot of goals being scored in this one, or I could see a pretty defensive Borussia Dortmund trying to prevent Barcelona from dominating a game away from home in a really tough home environment. I think Dortmund's side here, I like the quarter of a goal. I also lean to under 3.25, but I think both these teams have tons of goals in them and not great defenses. Moving next to AC Milan, as I wear their kit, to try to get in the camera view. They host Crvena Zvezda or Red Star Belgrade from the Serbian league. Milan at 1.75 goal favorite, almost all the juice on Crvena Zvezda away from home. Total is 3, juiced all the way to over. I just don't really see much with Crvena Zvezda that I really want much to do with. Milan, I feel like they've been playing a much more pragmatic brand under Paulo Fonseca, who was all out attack last season at Lille and previously in his tenures everywhere else across the globe, in Europe specifically. I don't think there's much I want to do with this one. Milan at San Siro, not a great thing I want to fade with a bad team. Moving next to Benfica of Lisboa, hosting Bologna. Benfica currently a 1-goal favorite, which feels gigantic. Totals 2.75. This one juiced more to the over. I have enough questions about the Benfica offense that I'm interested in any team getting a full goal of insurance, even in the Lisboa home. I think I'm more interested in under 2.75, though, because Bologna, I think, despite scoring a bunch this weekend, I don't think they're very likely to do that away from home in Champions League at a really tough place to play. But I think they will restrict Benfica, and we'll see Bologna continually struggle to put up points in the Champions League, and really that's because they can't score goals. VfB Stuttgart and hosts Young Boys Bern. Currently, Stuttgart a 1.5 goal favorite with more juice. Totals 3.5, juice slightly more to under. Young Boys, I have them in a snake draft. Like you get as many points as they score, and they've scored 0, just like Leipzig. So I think I'm forever in last place, even though I normally win that competition. And damn, it's for Bitcoin entries, and it's all that price has climbed quite a bit, I must say. I think Young Boys, there's not much for me to want to do with them. Don't love them. Don't want to deal with them. So I'll move on and try to avoid any innuendo there. Last but not least, before we get to the best bets, ultimate best bet portion of the show, we have Feyenoord hosting Sparta Prague. Currently Feyenoord a 1.25 goal favorite with all the juice. Over under is 3, just slightly more to over. Now Sparta Prague, they got blasted by Atletico Madrid last match day at home. I was very surprised by that. I think they will respond here, though they will not have any of the ball. That's a big problem, especially going to a Dutch Eredivisie side, who I say are the hardest to fade. I think my biggest interest here, and probably only interest, is in the Sparta Prague under 3. A lot less to choose from, I think, on the Wednesday card, which makes me think Tuesday is going to be a buckle up and strap in, because we're going to have a great time on Tuesday, hopefully. And that brings me to the ultimate best bet portion of the show, which we're going to have it here. There's a lot of it. I went with Atalanta as a pick'em on Tuesday, and I will record this. I got to get my videos ready, actually, while I'm doing this to make sure that I can put this on Instagram, because there's been a little bit of a hiatus there. My bad. But ultimately, I had to switch phones because mine was just so full of bullshit. No, just kidding. Just so full of I had no memory left, and I couldn't delete anything without just completely shutting the phone down. But welcome to the new phone, and we'll get there eventually. Got to make my hair prettier as much as I can do with this mess. But for the ultimate best bet, I guess, selection, which I'm about to record that video, I'll go with Borussia Dortmund. I'll take them a quarter goal underdog as we are looking at home teams in this round of Champions League. So before we get into the ultimate best bet portion, I'll read off the gaudy records as well. It's time to make sure we mention that there is another podcast coming out on this channel, Betting the Pitch on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Also, Betting the Pitch. We go on at the real_G Warner on YouTube for the NFL edition coming out with _Schnicker on Tuesday nights every week. But we also will be putting 1-minute videos now that I have a phone that's capable of doing it on the Instagrams and the YouTubes of the world at the real_G Warner on both those platforms. Okay, it's time to do it. Let's get into it. Make sure I don't miss any questions before we get into it. I don't think that I have anyone to shout out, but thank you to the long-term Patreon subscribers. We're going to crush it. It's just been Cowboys tonight were perfect statement, perfect example of the brutality of betting sports every day. Sometimes you get in some ruts and it's time to climb out. So let's do it. Hey, this is real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the ultimate best bet. I pick my favorites from Tuesday and Wednesday of the Europa Champions League. Oh my God, I'm going to start that over. That was horrible. Hey, this is real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the ultimate best bet portion of the Betting the Pitch Champions League edition. I go through the Tuesday, Wednesday cards, pick my favorite bet from each of the days. We are 17-4 year to date, 8-0 last 8. We are 13-1 last 14, trying to keep that streak alive. Tuesday, I like Atalanta, a pick'em. And on Wednesday, I like Borussia Dortmund, a quarter goal underdog, both at home. Both, I think, going to pull off some shockers. If you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out. Patreon.com/real_G Warner. Best spot for all my plays, leans, write-ups across all sports. For my best bet, ultimate best bet, trying to keep that streak alive, I'm going to go with Borussia Dortmund, a quarter goal underdog at home to Football Club Barcelona. I think it's going to be a really tough place to go as a favorite in front of the yellow wall, which I've been in before. Borussia Dortmund take that quarter of goal, and they potentially win this match straight up. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. I will talk to you next time. Tuesday night, we'll do NFL edition. And then, of course, we'll do a Europa League podcast as well coming up on Wednesday night for Thursday action all day, every day. And eventually we'll sleep never. But thanks all for coming in. And we'll see you on the next episode. Peace out. And hopefully we don't have any more Leon Letts the rest of this season.
Recording stopped.